Hello everyone. Today is your friendly neighborhood queer Christian, and we're talking about on the Friday word, daring greatly, and daring greatly as a Christian. So the source material, of course, is from Daring Greatly from Brene Brown. And I heard about Brene Brown in 3 different instances. First, I watched the Netflix special. Someone had recommended it. So I was on tour and I watched it while I was on a plane. The second time I heard about Daring Greatly, the book, was from Yasha Jackson, who is our cell group leader, the Harlem Church. And then the third time I heard was from Melanie, who is part of the Mia's Prayer Chat, which everybody can join on Facebook group. And she posted a video of Brene Brown talking with the Red Table with Jada Pinkett and Willow. And I thought, okay, this is the third time I've heard about this woman. So after I watched that one, I went down sort of the YouTube rabbit hole and I started watching all these sort of things. And I really thought about how this really sort of applies and how it's really important as I walk as a Christian. Amen. Now, what inspired Brene Brown to write Daring Greatly is that she had a night of cyberbullying. She had done this TED Talk, and then she saw these comments, and the comments were all about her body, basically. Her body, she was this, and she was that, and she was this. And so after, a night of just being boom, 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 boomed by the cyberbullying, she went on a marathon and watched Downton Abbey. And then after watching Downton Abbey, she sort of went through her own little rabbit hole thinking, oh, what are the actors doing? This and this and this. And who was the president this time? And she saw that the president was Theodore Roosevelt, and she came across this quote. And so the quote is, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short and short again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly." So we think about that just encapsulates any person who takes a chance, right? And one of the things that Brene Brown came away with after reading that quote, which literally changed her life, was if you're a critic, but you're not in the arena, if you're not in the fight, if you're not in the struggle, if you're not trying to create something, build something, put something out in the world, create a better world, if all you can do is sit on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, and all you can do is troll people and criticize people and write nasty notes, then I don't need you, right? Because how are they going to build you? How does that edify? Only the person who understands, only the person who's in the arena, only the person who's failed, who's tried and failed again, understand and know what it means to build things, right? Like Jesus was a carpenter. Carpenters build things, right? Where there's nothing, they build something, right? And that is almost the absolute metaphor of what it means to be a part of this world when you're creating something, right? It's people who create something from nothing, right? If you think of Steve Jobs, right, when he was first at Apple, they actually fired him. The board pushed him out, right? And then they ended up bringing him back, right? But he was the creator. Before him, there was no Apple iPhone. Nobody was using their phone. The way what he's done he revolutionized something as simple as the phone. Amen. But that's what it means to create, to build, to do something new, to see in a different way, right? You think of Rihanna with her Fenty, right? I know Rihanna, but stay with me. Her Fenty makeup, right? Before that, who was talking about 50 Shades of makeup? No one. And many women with my shade of color was always having a hard time looking chalky and orange, except for a couple of brands here and there. But Rihanna's changed the game. Now everyone has multiple shades, right? That's what it means to sort of think outside the box. So when we're daring greatly, what are some of the elements it means to daring greatly? Okay, so one thing is you want to, know that when you're daring greatly, that the people around you are people who understand what you are doing, right? That's why as an actor, it's really important to have other actors around, other people who are in the theater arts, other people who perform, because they understand the risk that goes involved, because the life of an artist is not like this. The life of an artist is like right? And anybody who's been in the game could tell you that, right? Forever you could have a high, and the next day you could be low, and the next day you come here, and that's how it goes, right? Morgan Freeman can testify to that, right? He was at one place, he boom, dropped out, he got a little small part of something, and boom, his life was redone, right? So amen. So that is part of it, that you want to have people around you who understand. So if they're going to criticize you, to understand what they're criticizing. The other thing is that you want to cultivate authenticity. Amen. You want to cultivate and be a person who is authentic, who moves authentically in the world. Now, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, President Hussein Obama, right? I'm his number one fan in the whole wide world. One of the things you could think of in 2008 was, what stood out about him is he felt authentic. He felt like you knew him. Now, whether you really do or don't, who knows? But it was the fact that he stayed in integrity. And so he spoke, he walked the walk and talked the talk. And so he was willing to show and expose places that were less than beautiful. And he was willing, like in his first book, he talked about his own use of, drugs in the past and all these sort of things. And when you're authentic like that, it's hard to beat up against authentic, right? And the other thing is, you want to build a resistance to shame, right? Now, shame is a part of life. I believe that there is no emotion that God has given us that's not useful, and that includes shame. But you want to build a shame resilience. So when shame happens, it's an idea. It gives you an indication. Oh, okay, this is something that may not be working, or I'm a little scared here. I've took this out and I feel like I failed. You note it. You experience it, but it doesn't dictate. You don't stay in that place. And with that is, being able to take a risk, and being able to take a risk and being able to risk failure, because you cannot move anywhere. I don't care who you are, whatever game you're in, right? Whether it's teaching, whether that game is the arts, whether that game is business, whether that game is science, people who do things have to risk failure, right? Any person who sort of created anything can tell you the list of failures they had. Stephen King talked about he plastered his wall with all the rejections he got from his novels, right? Because that is part of when you take a stand, you're going to take a risk. And part of risking is that you may fail, but you also may win. Amen. And the other part is that you want to make sure that you are able to be vulnerable, because to take a risk, to become shame resilient, to be authentic, you're going to have to be vulnerable, right? Because you're taking a risk. You're going into the unknown. And it's one of the things of being vulnerable, right? Is that you're going into the unknown. You have no safety net. You're sort of just stepping out there, right? And so in that stepping out, that risk of being vulnerable, right? You think of Jesus Christ when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? And he's like, I know what's going to happen, but I'm going to step in it anyway, right? I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to show who I am. I'm going to spend this night with you, but I know what's coming in the morning. Amen. So that ability for us to be vulnerable. Amen. And within that is to not have regrets. Right? It's hard. That's a hard one, right? Because you think I coulda, woulda, shoulda. But, if you take that stand, if you make that move, you take that risk, if you try to make that film, if you try to make that portrait, if you create a new curriculum for your class, it may hit and it may not. But at least you took the chance. And with every chance you take, with every dare you do, who knows? You might be the next, you might be the next TD Jakes, right? You may be the next Steve Jobs. You may be the next Ruby Bridges, right? The little girl who desegregated schools in Alabama. All these people on its child, all of them had to do is take a risk, right? And so in that, should never have regrets, because at least you tried, and from your trying may change the course of history. So I want to leave us with Isaiah. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary, increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They walk and not be faint. In Matthew 5, it says that we are the light of the world, the salt of the earth. And it says, do you take a lamp and put it under and put it under the bed. No, you put it out so it can be a light for the world. So take that risk and dare greatly. Amen. Prayer chat will not be next week. We'll have it next week on the 21st. All right. I hope you have a wonderful week. Mwah. Bye.